Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock to discuss different topics in Ridgefield history. And we're so excited to be at the Guild today to learn about the history of the people who founded your great organization and all the things that you do for the community. Before we get started today, I wanted to remind you about a really exciting event that's taking place next Thursday, June 25th. It's called Cocktails and the Collector. It's a really wonderful party that the Historical Society has partnered with the Guild on. It's a fundraiser for both organizations. We hope you'll be able to attend. It is going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. next Thursday here at the Guild. There's a really wonderful exhibition on display, a Mad for Modern exhibit that Pam's going to talk a little bit about. And we have vintage pieces of artwork that have been donated by the Siegelstein family. Vintage modernist pieces that will be on display, and they're going to be auctioned off that evening. There is going to be food and drink and dancers. So please come, go to the Ridgefield Historical Society's website or the Guild's website to purchase tickets, and we hope to see you on Thursday. With that, I think I'm going to hand it over to you, Pam, and you could talk more about the event next Thursday.
I guess I'll start with talking about the event. So I'm Pam Stoddard. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
Executive Director of the Guild. I have been with this organization almost 20 years, and at the end of this month, I'm actually moving on, and won't be the Executive Director anymore, but Grace Drake, standing in the corner over there, will be taking the reins. So the organization will be in great hands, and Grace actually grew up taking classes here. She's from Ridgefield, and she's been a board member for a couple of years now, so she knows all that we do inside and out. So we're in good hands. So a little bit more about the Mad for Modern event next Thursday. This exhibit that you're seeing is the Mad for Modern exhibit. Artist members were given the task of creating artwork that was inspired by the great modern artists, and this is the result of it, and I think it's fantastic. So if you get a chance after the talk here, take a look around and everything. And then in the middle room are the pieces that Stephen was discussing that were donated by the Siegelstein family. They're in the middle room, and those are really exciting too. There's some pretty significant artists in that room, and the bidding on those items is actually going to open up on Thursday, the 18th, in 2 days, and each piece is starting at $500. So if there's a piece that you love, bid on it. You may just get it. Three of them, I think, are starting at $750 because they're much higher value, but they're still great deals. So anyway, let's talk about the Guild of Artists. And I also want to mention that if you have some history to share, which I've already talked to a couple of you, please interrupt me when you get to a slide or something, raise your hand or something and tell us more, because anything that I'm saying, it's something that I've read secondhand, but if you actually have firsthand accounts, please discuss. So, okay, so let's start with the Ridgefield Guild of Artists. This was the original logo from 1974. So the Ridgefield Guild of Artists was created in 1974. Mickey McGuire was the woman who created it with 3 other people. And she held the very first meeting in her home on Ascot Way. She came up with the idea because she was working a Chamber of Commerce art show in Ballard Park in 1973. And she was struck by the number of artists who spoke of the need for an artist guild. So she decided to do something about it. So in 1974, she made it happen. She was elected the first president of the guild, and one of the first events that they did before they obtained this building was a Christmas art show, and that was in 1974 at the then new Yankee Ridge Shopping Center at Main Street and Prospect Street. and it was so popular that they continued it every year. And we today have a festive home event that we continue every year. 21 years festive home. So, anyway, she had to resign in 1975 due to health reasons, and Dennis Sullivan was then elected president. Again, these names don't mean anything to me, but if they mean something to you, please let us know. Other officers at that time, the very first year, was John Sipo, Richard Savite, and Jean Ross, who's the recording secretary. Karen McCheney and Christine McChesney, thank you, and Christine Tougeau. Anyway, those were the names that kept popping up. So, here is the barn with the original logo. So, assuming this is around 1975 when they actually got the building. So, for the first couple of years, or the first year, maybe 18 months, they had to hold meetings elsewhere. So there were 17 original members. We've known this for a long time, and we've been told that tree photo, which will come up in a little bit, is the 17 original members with all of their family members, children and grandchildren and friends, and also some art teachers are in there, in that significant photo of the tree. And the main purpose of the Guild was to create a place for artists to congregate and create and eventually exhibit. And that is our mission still today, and that's exactly what we do. We have a home for artists to create, we teach classes, and we hopefully inspire people with themes like shows like we have it here, and then they go off and create, and then they exhibit, and eventually sell, hopefully sell. That's everybody's goal. So here's another photo from 1976 of the barn. Sign's gone in this one, but so let me tell you a little bit about the history of this barn. The barn was originally part of the Cheeseman estate. Is that right? Chessman? Cheeseman estate. Thank you, Jack Sanders, by the way, who's helped me tremendously with all the history. In the 1880s, and it was all part of, it was 26 acres, so it was the congregate housing building, it was this building, which was a goat barn, it was the theater barn building, I believe, and there was a farm. You were telling me there was a farm. That was in the 1880s. Then in 1922, the property was purchased by the Holy Ghost Fathers, and it served as a monastery.
Yeah, it was. There were men who came here to be missionaries.
Okay.
They lived in the main building.
And what is your name? I'm sorry.
Elaine.
Elaine grew up right around
Oh
here.
yeah, I grew up in the neighborhood.
And she used to play here.
And the brothers, they worked the farm. There was a working farm,
Okay.
and they worked the farm. And we spent actually our summers here with the brothers. I remember Brother Bones and Brother Jackson, who went on to become missionaries. From Ridgefield, they went to Ferndale, which is, Sandy says Stanford, but I don't think so. Norwalk, yeah. And from there they went across the world. But and there's a pond right here, and there was a rope swing on it that we would come over and swing. It's still here, you know. It's still. Ruth's there. I asked him. He said it's still there.
Okay.
Yeah. But this whole thing was a. I call it a working farm, and they lived in what is the main house of the congregate housing.
Yeah. So this building was a goat farm, and we know that much. And there's evidence of animals, well, The barn floor is original. And there's the, if you notice up here, the hay, yeah, the hay chute where they would drop the hay down. And on these posts, these two posts, which have been painted over many, many times, because we have our galleries painted once a year, you can notice where that bag is leaning up against it, all the scratch marks from the animals. So we're still painted over them a lot. We're trying to, now I kind of want to take the paint away because I think it's really a great character. So in 1970, with the rising costs and the dwindling number of candidates, it prompted the order to move from here to, I guess, Norwalk. I guess maybe this was a bigger property than the one in Norwalk, because this seems like a pretty big campus, so to speak. And then in 1971, the town purchased the property, 26 acres, for $430,000. And the town, when they purchased it, they said they would be using it for housing, future athletic fields, and other uses, affordable housing, and community gardens. And that's exactly what it is today. There's a community garden across the street. There's ball fields that way. There's the Bark Park and the baseball field, and now the alternative high school is going in there. So that's all part of the same property. So in 1974, when the Guild was first created, they investigated many buildings in town, and they landed on this one. And the barn across the street was there at the time, and it was called the Ridgefield Workshop for the Performing Arts, which is now the theater barn. So they were here like 8 years before us, I believe. I think they're celebrating their 60th. And we just celebrated our 50th 2 years ago. So it's funny because one of the articles I read said that when they first took over this building and the theater barn was there, which I have to laugh about because 20 some odd years ago, we met with Rudy and came up with these beautiful blueprints about turning the lane into a cultural district. That's about as far as it got. We talked about, making it a destination. You've got visual arts, performing arts. We were going to turn it all into like an amphitheater for outdoor activities, and Shakespeare outside, and all sorts of stuff. And here it is. Never went any farther than that. So I had to laugh when I read that because they were doing the same thing back in 1974. So great minds think alike, I guess. So anyway, after the town approved us being here, for $1 a year, that was the rent. It's still our rent, by the way, $1 a year. And the condition was they had to fix it up in order and maintain the building. And that's exactly our deal too. You have to fix it up and maintain it. And it took them time to do it. The original members cleaned it up. They tacked up pegboard, and there's some photos of that, and then laid down brown shag carpeting covering this floor. So that was the original Guild. Pegboards and brown shag carpeting. I also wanted to just point out, in the back of the building is this gravestone, and I don't have any idea. Well, Jack mentioned maybe somebody just put it there. I don't know. I don't know if it was part of the whole Holy Ghosts, or it says Reverend Francis.
Yeah, that might be from the priests that were here.
1951, so they were still here. And then 1955, yeah, so that could be, it's right back there. Okay, so here's another photo from 1975. It's kind of blurry, but I love the car up front. You know, now of course we have a nice stone terrace, and we keep a tent out there for, we have classes out there in the summer under the tent, and when we have events, we can open the doors and go outside. So, and then here's the famous photo, which is over there. We can look closely at it later. These are supposedly the founding members of the guild in the notable Norway maple tree. That's what we call it now, because the tree has since caused a lot of buzz in the arborist world. It is apparently the largest Norway maple in Connecticut, and then they came, somebody throughout the whole country, arborists, came and measured the trunk of the tree, and it's in competition of being the largest Norway maple in the country. It's like tied with a tree out in Seattle, a Norway maple. So I don't know if you noticed, there's a stone wall around it now. The Boy Scouts put that in. We're trying to protect the tree, even though it apparently is an invasive species. So some people are like, don't protect the tree, get rid of it. And the other people are like, but it's the largest maple in the country. So anyway, it's not our tree, it's the town's tree. We're just lucky, I guess, to have it on our property. So, and if anybody knows anybody in this photo, speak up. You said you knew one of them was an art teacher?
George Passantino, all the way on the left with the black beard.
Yeah.
There's a post on Old Ridgefield on Facebook that has many of the names written right on the picture.
Okay.
And it was posted by someone who was one of them.
We occasionally get somebody who comes in and sees the photo, because we sometimes, there's a class going on upstairs, by the way. It's not the ghost. We do occasionally get people coming in, young, middle-aged, all ages, saying, oh, that was my grandmother. And guild people, who was the one that came in and said, I'm in that photo with my grandmother?
He was sitting
on the lap?
branch, yeah, on
Yeah.
the branch there.
Yeah.
That was Jenny Carr's boyfriend.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. He was a little kid and his dad took the photo, he said.
Okay.
I can't remember that he grew up here too.
Yeah.
His name's Carl.
It's Carl. I don't know what his last name is. So, okay. So this article is really the first article about the guild, and it is the opening gala, so to speak, for the organization, and they had 400 people attend. It was held on Main Street at the Minot House, which is now the Fountain Inn. And Dr. Minot, I guess, I don't see his name come up anywhere being a guild member, but he was apparently involved, maybe just loved the arts, and offered up his home for exhibits while there was the interim period, while they were cleaning out the barn, getting it ready to move in here. So anyway, oh wait, I wanted to mention one thing about this. I think it was, if you read it closely, it's funny, it talks about how the fashions couture, and there was halter dresses and pinstripe suits, and so it was quite a crowd that would attend these openings. We don't get that here anymore.
Pretty good.
No celebrities, no halter dresses. So this is a picture of the Fountain Inn, or the Minot House, where the parties would be held. Oh, here we go, here it is. This tells you who's in this photo. Attendance was smashing. So 400 people, we average about 100 to 125 for our art openings. Or any parties, not 400. I wish we would get 400 people, but.
No, just, it says Carol Grasso, that's that collection, Betsy, right? That
Yes.
collection, so, she left a lot of her works to a friend of hers who is donating it to us when she passes.
Was she a ceramicist?
No, it was paintings.
Paintings. Because Jack Grasso was a
Yes.
watercolorist.
Right.
And you have somebody showed me a plate.
I have a plate that he had done 100 of these plates, and as much as I remember, I won this in a raffle at a hospice breakfast because it says on the back that he had donated all the proceeds from this to hospice, and there were 100 of them. This is number 90.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Okay.
That, Pam,
Yes.
that little boy who was sitting on somebody's lap, I think was Carl Blissman. His mother Gail is on the end, because I think her husband took the picture.
Okay.
Carl Blissman. And Harry Bennett, who was next to her with the dark glasses, was a very well-known artist nationally. And he did more than 500 or 600 book covers in the 50s and 60s. Was famous for his nicely depicted romantic scenes, using quite a few Ridgefielders as models, including the father of our first selectman, was used for one. He quit doing commercial art like that and started doing modernist, impressionist art and moved out to the West Coast. But he's buried here, his family is from here.
Is Ben's farm named after him and his family?
His family came from Lewisboro, but it could be the same general family.
Well, Linz Carbone's wife was his sister.
Dottie.
Huh?
Dottie.
Norman
Yeah.
Lewis.
And Wendy Bliss was in my class. Her mother was Harry Bennett's sister. And his mother lived on Gilbert Street. The house now has a kind of a stone wall, but it's not straight.
She ran the laundry.
Mrs. Bennett lived there.
Oh, here's the mention about the diverse crowd and the striking couture outfits. And Senator Romeo Petroni was present. And I think the gist of it was everybody agreed that opening the guild filled a need in the town because it was such an artistic town, and it still is, as we all know. This is a photo of the first selectman, Louis Fossey, who was kind of handing over the designation of the guild, and also he declared June 22nd Arts Appreciation Day, which I had to talk to Rudy about that. We gotta get that back, right? And the picture is actually in front of the Minot House again. You can't really tell from this blow up of it, but that's interesting. Oh, that's a better picture. There you go. So this is another photo. A lot of the articles that I found were basically, and dozens and dozens and dozens of articles, and they're basically talking about upcoming shows. Come see our show. You know, we're having a show, a watercolor show. We're having a, you know, fiber show. There's all, you know, all sorts of different shows. And in the beginning, it says that they would show at the Spectrum Sports Shop in Yankee Ridge. I find that hard. I don't know what the Spectrum Sports Shop was, but they must have had a nice wall for hanging pictures. So, and then Chris to go pops up in a lot of articles, and I believe in one of them it said she was the director of education, so she kind of took the role of getting the classes going. That's another photo of her. And I don't know who that is, but there are lots of pictures like this in all the articles. Here's another one of her. It says director of the Guild School. Now, to my knowledge, there was no separate Guild School. I know down at the Silvermine Arts Center, they have it separated. They have the Guild of Artists, and then they have the school, and we don't have that here. We're all under one umbrella, but maybe they weren't, or maybe they just gave her that title. The Guild School. Here's another just article about the different guild shows and announcing the dates. And this was in 1979. So for years and years I was just pulling all these articles. But one thing I wanted to note about these articles was, again, the parallels that we have today with what they were doing from the beginning. For instance, this was called a five artist show. Now, I think maybe 10 years ago, we started a show called 212, and we thought we were so, you know, ahead of the times with the show called 212, which is 5 artists, and we put, it's a juried show. We still do it today. It's a juried show, prestigious. We usually get a prestigious juror from a museum or something, and you get hundreds of entries, and you get a semi-solo show. You get there's 2 artists in this room, 1 in the middle, and 2 in the front, thus the name 212. So I had to laugh when I saw this because they were doing it back then. We're not special. And then other parallels I had noticed, that's the 5 artists. Anyway, that's the holiday show. Anyway, let me just tell you some other parallels, which again, I think is funny. Looking back now, I think it's funny. In 1976, there was a women's show, and in 2003, we did a women's show curated by Ridgefielder Nancy Moore. Nancy Moore is a member here, former board member also. Does she have a piece in the show? I don't think she does. Anyway, Nancy comes up with great ideas for shows, and we always entertain them because she does a lot of work for them, and she hand-picks the pieces. And so she did a show in 2003 called The Woman's Show. She also did a fiber show in, I don't remember, it's called By a Thread, and there's another article about a fiber show. In 1983, there was an article about a show called Strictly Ridgefield for the 275th birthday of Ridgefield. And in 2008, we had a big event. We had a party and a show called Paint the Town, and that was for the 300th. And again, we thought we were coming up with such a great idea, only to find out. In fact, Mary Pat Devine, who's not here today, she's the president of the board, we were scrolling through all these articles, and she was saying, these are some great ideas for future shows. go back to the source and you'll find great ideas. Also in 1977, they had a studio tour of local artists. I don't really have any other information on who the studios were, but we did the same thing, I think back maybe 2012 or somewhere around there. We had a studio tour, and I think that's something we're going to bring back because everybody loves going into artist studios. And there's a lot of artist studios in this town. Whether they're in their house, in a building in the back, in their garage, in a barn, you know, there's a lot. So, and then lastly, in 1997, the Guild actually took a trip to Taos, New Mexico, and that was an article we found. And I thought to myself, wow, we should do that. But sure enough, last year, one of our teachers, the abstract teacher, took a group of artists to Mallorca, Spain. And I think it was like 10 of them. And they rented a house and they painted and sightseeing. So I just think it's funny. We're doing the same thing. So this was about the holiday show, which is always long-standing. And we, to this day, do Festive Home, which is our biggest fundraising event. It consumes several months of our gallery, and it's still the most popular. I guess holiday shows are just the most popular. This is a photo of the women's show. I think it's funny that this was called My Sister's Hair, and it received first prize from the women's show. So funny. I don't know why I can't. She's about to have a lot of hair. So that's the history that I have, and if anybody wants to add to that, please do. From here, I'm gonna go to the starting in the 2000s, which is kind of.
I noticed in the earlier photos of the barn that there seem to be two windows here on the side. I'm wondering when they were taken away.
That's a really good question, and I know there's discussion about, which I was going to talk about in a little bit, having a tenant. And we always thought the tenant was upstairs. But one of the articles talks about the upstairs was used for storage. And then I thought, well, maybe there was two windows. Maybe there was an apartment here and the gallery was just over there. And I don't know. Do you know?
I remember, and I don't remember the year, but some woman donated her bat mitzvah money and refurbished this whole gallery, and they took out the doors, or
Okay.
they took out the barn doors.
Interesting.
My memory is poor.
Oh, I would love to find out more about that.
Bobby Ike Mullen is somebody who would know about getting the tree designated a notable tree. And Nancy Boersma is another, she was a guild member when I first moved here. And I think she's in the tree, sort of in the center. And she was in charge of having the floor painted upstairs, which was used as a studio. Once a year, that was her project. And that's about all I remember. And there was a tenant upstairs.
Yeah, it was over there on that side.
Yeah.
So this is our logo today. We were talking about how we really liked the old one. Maybe we should bring it back. It's kind of groovy. And this is the barn today. It's interesting because that upstairs little door was still there back then, but there was never a staircase in any of the photos. So, but other than that, it's still looks the same. So, was the barn ever red? No, it was always white. Yeah, in those old photos it looks white.
It looks white, right.
Yeah,
Just the logo's red, I would thought.
yeah. So, let's see, where am I? So I just wanted to talk a little bit in the early 2000s about the transformation of the barn to what it is today. There was a Ridgefield resident, Chris Kernan, some of you may know him, he's an artist, he's also a builder in town. But he wanted to become an artist. I mean, he wanted to be, try to sell his work. So he offered us to do the renovation of the barn and turn it into the gallery you see today, if we let him have a solo exhibit. Now, solo exhibits, if an artist comes to us and says, I want to have a solo exhibit, well, first of all, our calendar's booked out 2 years. And we also charge money to take over this whole gallery for a month if you have a show. So we charge rental fees, and then we also take 40% commission on anything sold, because that's how we make money, and that's how we survive. So Chris offered us his skills to turn it, and he said, in exchange for a solo show. So we thought, well, geez, we're getting the good end of the deal on this, right? Because we know how much construction it costs. So he turned it into what it is today, these beautiful 3 galleries with the white walls and the sheetrock. He pulled up the shag carpeting to reveal these floors, which was incredible. Took down pegboards and everything. And then he's a sculptor, and he works really big. He takes old oil tanks and big pieces of metal that he finds on construction sites and turns it into art. And so he had the whole gallery for his show, and each piece was somewhere around $5,000 and up. And sure enough, he sold almost every piece in his show. And we didn't get our 40%, because that was the deal.
Isn't the dog, did he do the dog at the dog?
He did do the dog.
Chris Kernan.
Yes, he did that big smiley face at the playhouse.
The round balls.
The round balls around town,
they're
yeah, we do those.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think that's a funny story. But again, we're thrilled because the gallery is so beautiful and he did a great job. So just a little bit about what we do, which has been happening for over 50 years, since the beginning. We do the art classes, we do workshops, we do summer programs for kids, we have gallery exhibits, 6 to 8 of them a year. We do the art walk event in town, if any of you go to that. Our festive home show. We do lectures during each show. People come and we usually pick 4 or 5 artists, and they talk about their work and their inspirations and stuff. We do professional practice lectures for artists, people who they want to learn how do I become successful at being an artist, and we help them with that. We have satellite gallery opportunities in town where you can show your art in town. And then we do community collaborations. So the gallery exhibits are really the cornerstone of the guild, and it's really what our mission is all about, having artists show their work. That is Mary Harold looking up at some art. On the ceiling, and during Bedlam, yeah.
People would come in and see the name tag on the wall and say, where are your pieces? And they're up on the ceiling.
Yeah, Bedlam is an exhibit where it's exactly like its name. We let people hang their own work, and they can hang it anywhere they want. And so Mary put hers on the ceiling. And then these are the walk and talks I was telling you about, where you take your chair and you move to the next piece and the next piece. That's why it's called a walk and talk. Children's classes. This is our biggest studio, which is upstairs. So I know you said you used to do life drawing.
The life drawing class has been a fixture for many, many years.
Yes, it has.
And it's going on upstairs right now.
It is.
Finally, they have a daytime program. It used to be on Thursday night from
It
7
still
to
is, actually.
7 to 9, and then
Yeah.
it to 9:30. I've been a model for 50 years, and I know.
So you were a model in the life drawing classes.
Yes, that's how I made a living, and I'm very, very close to people who supported me all those years at that profession, which is not easy.
No?
So upstairs, this is going on.
It's going on right now.
Yeah.
I was hoping we could do it.
Finally, during the day,
I don't know
when
if
I
we
can
do it.
drive.
Yes, and that's going to be running all summer, right?
Yes.
On Tuesdays. So come back and draw now.
Yay.
So we do have 2 studios upstairs. This picture is our larger studio. And then, so I want to talk a little bit about the other side. So there's a windy staircase, for those who've never been upstairs. There's a staircase that goes up when you first walk in. And to the right is this room, which is the large studio, which I believe has been the same all these years. The same studio up there. To the left, things have changed over the years. It used to be an apartment at one point. There was a kitchen, small kitchen, 2 rooms. I think it had green shag carpeting at that time, and a full bathroom with a shower stall. And I don't know if it was caretaker maybe who lived here, just a tenant for rent, I'm not really sure. Then we kept the storage room and the bathroom and the kitchen, and we turned one of the rooms into a gallery, small gallery. And we would use it for, it's where those windows are. We used it as prize money, so to speak. If you were in a show and you won first place, you got a solo exhibit in this small upstairs gallery. We called it the upstairs gallery. And to this day, people remember that we had that. We had it for a good 10 years maybe. And they when they come to see the show, they say to us, "What's exhibiting upstairs?" And we say, "Well, nothing." We turned it into a studio. So what happened was there was a kitchen fire. The kitchen was tiny. The stove was, the cooktop and stove was about this big. Remember? It was tiny. And we had a teacher who was British, and he always made tea. When he turned on his tea, made tea. And there was a stack of red plastic solo cups that fell, and it was a gas burner. And the cups, the red plastic cups, burned. So we had this fire. And it was only maybe this big of a stack of cups that burned, and then he put it out. But the fumes from those cups covered the entire upstairs with a sticky plastic film. And we had to get ServPro in here and clean the whole place. And we actually took the opportunity to change the kitchen, which was tiny, and get rid of that old stove, and turn the whole area, which was just a junk room. Really, it was just a junk room. We would just throw things up there. We used to store things in the shower. Remember, we'd say, "Put that in the shower. Put that in the shower." And we turned it into a second studio, so we could increase the number of classes that we offer and run 2 things at once. We really want to turn it into a school where there's things going on at all times, one studio and the next studio. So that's really the story about why it is a studio. today, but stay tuned, we don't know, maybe things will change. It seems, another interesting story is once about tenants. We were going to start a pottery program, and we had found a teacher who was going to take it on, and he was going to bring in a wheel and a kiln, and so we signed him up and said, this is great. So we gave him the key to the building because he said, I'm going to bring the stuff over. So he started bringing his stuff over, and a couple days later, one of us went down to the basement for something else and discovered he really did bring his stuff over. He brought a mattress, because there's actually a bathroom down there. He brought a mattress, he brought all of his belongings, and he had moved in. So we had to get the police involved and get him kicked out. Yes. And any of you who've been in that basement, you know you don't want to live there. Anyway, that's kind of a funny side story. These are just some of the other things that we do around town. Painting plein air, which is painting outside, very popular. A lot of times the classes are right here, either painting the barn or painting the tree. Everybody loves that tree. Here's a picture of Art Walk downtown, which, you know, I don't know if people know that we run Art Walk, and we have run Art Walk for 12, 13 years. We do a lot of community partnerships. Anytime anybody asks us for art, we need help with painting or whatever they need, we jump in. So this was a dog project, you probably remember. And then the sneaker project, we did that one. We did the gingerbread house with the Lounsbury house. And anytime we get the Ridgefield Guild of Artists involved, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. This one, of course, won first prize because it is a replica of the community center, all made out of gingerbread and candy. During the pandemic, in fact, I think I did something for the Historical Society about this. You guys were doing, yes. Yeah. We talked about our community project. Everybody was cooped up, and we would put bins of 12 by 12 canvases outside under our tent, and anybody in town could come and take them. And that summer of 2020, we did do Art Walk, and we displayed all of the community canvases, and we had to keep buying more and more and more. We'd come over, and the bin was empty. We'd come over, and the bin was empty. And people were signing out, like 6 of them at a time. All the family members, people were painting, you know, just sending us thank you notes, thank you for doing that. That gave our family something to do, and so it's kind of a neat project. Here's a picture of our festive home, and festive home is traditionally our event where we showcase our artists who make handcrafted items. We do have wall art as well, but a lot of it's just more, you know, jewelry, pottery, cards, like 3D type items. And then the doorway into festive home has become a group effort. We get many volunteers helping us, kind of the entryway into festive home, and we have a lot of fun with that. And here's a little picture of summer programs, which still, you know, going strong. Everybody, for years and years and years, even back in the 70s, they were doing children's stuff. Although I think in the beginning, I get the sense that the original founders, a lot of the articles were champagne and drinks and libations and, they were having a good time back in the 70s. They weren't bringing their kids, they were bringing themselves. 2 years ago, we celebrated our 50th. We did a whole rebranding campaign for that, which was fun, going back. And then here's the photo again, and I showed this because we recreated it. I think it was around 2010. The then board members and Joan Isaacs in the middle, she worked at the front desk. And it's just funny to show, and then I put them side by side because I think the tree looked so much better back in the 70s. It looked healthier.
It's lost a lot of limbs.
Yes. Well, the people who came to measure the tree and protect the tree said it needed to be pruned. And they really hacked it. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a rule where you shouldn't take more than 20%. And I think they took more than that, so anyway, but it's still, they claim it's very healthy. So it's an invasive species, apparently, and the roots are so big on that tree that we had a septic tank on the other side of the building, and it was clogged with the roots from the tree that went all the way over there. So, yeah. It might come down to saving the tree or saving the foundation of the building. Oh, yeah. Anyway, this is just another exhibit picture and the barn today. And that's it. Yay. I'd love to hear more stories if anybody has. And if not,
I have a second-hand story, and
Okay.
it's connected to 3 people who are here today. So we bought our house in 2023, and I just walked in and said, this house just feels right. And it turned out it was owned from 1949 until 2007 by one of the original Guild of Artists members, Margaret Melville, who was Australian, and she was married to a French wine importer. And my husband and I have lived in Europe, and I'm Australian, and our parents are both artists, and it was just this beautiful confluence of events. But when I started to research it, thanks to Jack and Sally and to Betsy, we discovered that there were records at the Historical Society archives, including pamphlets of paintings that she had done and exhibits she'd done. And she also was very into animal activism, and during the war she was involved in plane spotting, and she also wanted to donate an acre of our land, the land that's still ours, to be preserved for birds and animals and everything. And it was in her will, but it somehow wasn't accepted. Whoever she wanted to donate it, she didn't want it, so we still have it. But the coolest part was that after we moved in, our neighbors across the street invited us over for coffee, and she said, we knew Peggy Mulholland, she was right across the street, and she had 2 of her paintings, and so she gave me one of the paintings. So I now have in her home a painting that she did. It's all somewhere in the Alpes Maritime region in France. But she also painted our backyard, and I have no idea where those paintings
So she was a landscape artist.
She was a landscape artist, and she also was a traveling artist. But she knew she was good friends with the wife of Larry Aldrich. I can't remember her name. Lynn Aldridge, and she was one of the original members, so she's probably in that tree. But it's just a beautiful sort of confluence of events around history and art. So
Yeah, I can put the tree back. Anybody
yeah,
wants
I
to
studied it and zoomed in. You
Yeah.
said you thought you might remember or would have known her, but only when she was older. Right?
Sort of in the center, I think that's Nancy Boersma. She's an artist.
But the old Ridgefield Facebook page that Jack's been maintaining for many, many years does have this picture with many of the names identified.
think Nancy was here then.
I love their
It was
clothes.
74.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think
I've
she,
lost touch with her. She lived on,
Old Row was.
She's in Wilmington, North Carolina.
and George Passantino, all the way on the left with the black beard. He was the head of the famous artist. He was the art director at the famous artist school in Westport back in probably the 60s. I don't know what connection he had to the guild. He taught at Silvermine too, and he was my teacher, and he was my teacher's art director
Here
at the
or
famous
there?
artist. No, at the famous artist school.
Oh,
And Pat Scott, who was one of the founding members, her husband Dave was one of the founding members of the Ridgefield Historical Society. He's the one who helped get Scott House moved and rebuilt.
okay.
He
It's
was-
cat up on the right, on the limb.
Standing up.
Yes, cat,
City.
sitting.
Oh, sitting.
No,
No,
that's
that's
not
not
her.
That's in there.
Yeah. And as we said, the little boy is Carl Glissman, who lives on North Salem Road now.
It's a reminder of why we should write names on the back of our
Yes.
photographs.
Carol Miller, who taught here for about 40, 50 years, her second husband is in that photo too.
Yeah, Grace took classes with Carol Miller.
My kids still
Carol Miller finally retired during COVID. I think it was 2020, and she finally said, I think she was 86 at the time, and she would do those stairs she just did not want to give up teaching. She loved her kids.
We didn't have the kids until they graduated from high school. They loved her.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
If anybody's interested in going upstairs and seeing the studios, we can do it. I don't know if we can go in here because
I was gonna say that.
we can't do that.
Big studio.
No.
Only on the breaks.
What's that?
Only on the breaks. The model poses for 20 minutes and
Yes,
he gets a 5
and then
minute
they take a
break.
break. Yeah, no, we won't interrupt that class. Or you're welcome to walk around the building, take a better look at the tree, see the gravestone, which
I can give a little tour. I can do my little tour.
Nichols were. Does everybody know Mary Harrell? That's Mary. She's been a long-standing board member and guild member, and she runs the. She takes a lot of the photos. She's a resident photographer for all of our events and exhibits, and she's got thousands,
Millions.
millions of photos.
My computers.
Yeah.
I should donate them to the store.
And Mary,
Little drive.
yeah.
He's going.
Mary was just awarded the town Nancy Comstock Award, just a couple weeks ago, for her devotion to, really, the arts in the town. She's at many, many events. Taking photos.
I think I've photographed every organization in town for some event.
Yes. Mhm.
My pleasure.
Yeah.